welcome to.
Hello. Oh, there's little.
You remember Deborah and then Omar? He's our trip leader.
And there's.
And you
Yeah.
really are staying way over in Forest City.
Believe it or not, yeah, we tried to get that place, like the same place, and then UF blocked it. And I think it was because we had the work casino connected to it.
Oh,
So,
here we are.
but yeah.
Wow.
Hey everyone, Dr. Mary Olson here. So we,
James White is back there.
Oh,
hey, Mr. White, do you need some help? Can I give you some?
No, I'm good. I'm gonna put some water back in, some tea.
Okay.
Anybody want some food to drink?
I tell you, I love life and laughter and joy and peace. And boy, something seems like it's done come over this country to where when you see somebody walk around smiling, you wonder what's the matter with them, you know, because there's so much misery and suffering and pain. And I think that you young people are in the pursuit of knowledge to make a change in some of that. And I'm praying that y'all succeed in your endeavors, because what you're doing here seems to be very much needed. And I'll tell you now, we're about to rip off a scab of a very serious and ugly wound upon our country. And I'm saying this with no hate in my heart, with no malice. I'm so thankful that I learned that I gotta love everybody. Else, you know, I laugh and I tease my kids. I say, you know, when Moses came and brought them 10 Commandments, the boys started pimping them and got them all twisted and confused and everything, and then Jesus had to come straighten it out. And he just brought 2, made it real easy. And if it make it so easy, both of them got the same answer: love. See? And see, a lot of us have gotten it right about loving God, because some people have built some of the beautifulest churches and cathedrals and mosques, synagogues and all that, and have most elaborate ceremonies. They love God with all their heart, mind, soul, and body. But if you gave him the test and asked him about his neighbor, see, you're missing the mark. 50% on that test is an F. If you don't love your enemy too, you're failing. So saying that, I want people to know I'm not hating anybody for anything in the past. But now I want you to know, I know what happened. And you ain't doing me now, I ain't going. And I want to change something because you owe me. And I'm not so concerned about you owing me, because I ain't gonna be around long enough to spend none of it. I'm concerned about those children, and not just mine, because I found out this is not a personal story. It's much bigger than what I thought. Because when we talked about the Elaine ride, well, I told y'all the Elaine ride was round 2. Round 1 was during the Reconstruction era. See, during the Reconstruction era, a lot of people got misplaced during the war, North and South. Now, some whites from the North, a lot of what we call slick Jews, the carpetbaggers, they tore the carpet up off their floor, came down here with a bag of tricks. And they hooked up with the white guy down here. They called him a scallywag, because the division between North and South was so bad that the Southerners felt like anybody got anything to do with the Northerners, we don't want to have nothing to do with him, he's a scallywag. But the scallywags were also the predecessors to the Ku Klux Klan. Because before the Civil War, before the 13th, 14th Amendment, there wasn't no need for a Klan, because to kill a black was the same, it was a property issue. Like, you killed my horse, or you killed my dog or my cow. Well, how much was that horse worth? Was it a show horse, or was it just a breeder, or what? You know, that was the extent of it. And they came down and they come up with a plan. And see, this is why when I found out that it's much bigger than just my family. This plan was to kill every one of these black that we gave a land grant to and take back possession of the land. Now, you scholars, I'm challenging you to go to the Land Commission, the archives, and look at how the acquisition of land transpired. See, so many acreage was allotted to get these folks to come over here to help them develop this place. And they didn't just come over here to pick cotton, because there wasn't no cotton around here to be picked then. It was timber. These giant brothers, these Ethiopians, they come in here and cleared this place up. They made money off the timber, and then they gave the land to get these folks here. They gave them land grants, and they gave them what they thought was the worst of the land, the Delta. All this land right up against these three rivers. Right over here is the Mississippi, and then you cross the White River up there at Clarendon, and then just before you get to Pine Bluff, you cross the Arkansas River, and all of them meet together right down there. They call it, you know, the Delta, where all three of the rivers meet. Well, they gave these blacks this land because it was swampy and full of mosquitoes, alligators and stuff. And they did here the same thing that they did in the Nile Valley, with the use of levees, and ditches, canals, and they raised up land to where they could farm. And because of the deposit from all the stuff coming from down the rivers, the silt and all that, it made this some of the most valuable land in the world. See? And right now it's being abused because they're using this heavy equipment and they're overworking the land and using a lot of pesticides and chemicals. This land would be best for feeding people. And they took the people off of it. And let me get back to what was going on with this plantation business. They didn't have any plantations back here before the Civil War. They didn't even want slavery in Arkansas because they had so many free blacks. And the other part of Arkansas, these white folks was happy doing what they was doing over there. The Post family and the Whitaker family, the Delaware and the Atkins, they happy. They done found them a hill where they raise grapes and grow wine and make pickles and make fortunes. They didn't want to have nothing to do with slavery. These kind of folks didn't. We don't call them hillbillies, you know. They didn't want to have nothing to do with it. But down here in the Delta, the money was so strong with the cotton that money won. The money won. So when they were doing the Missouri Compromise, they were trying to keep the balance of slave states and free states. And they were bringing 2 states in at a time. Arkansas came in as a slave state, but it came in with Michigan as a sister state, a free state. A lot of brothers left here then. And a lot of them left here then. A lot of them stayed. Okay? Now, Arkansas came, but they ignored the fact that these black folks had these plantations. but they were more like large family farms. Now they had, they say slavery was a peculiar institution. They had Indians that had plantations, they had white folks that had plantations, and they had black folks that had plantations. Because the name of the game was get all you can and can all you get. You see what I'm saying? And whoever the best getters was, they put them out there. And it was us every time, sister. It was us. I just had to pick it up. It was us every time. Because before they built castles in Europe, they had castles all over Africa and Asia. The European, see, I was laughing when I was looking at the people up there in Washington, up there clowning, stomping around, trying to tear the Capitol down. It's funny that the whole idea, every time you see them want to dramatize something, they got a scene of the Capitol background behind them, the dome, the obelisk, the pool and everything. Lincoln sitting up 60 feet tall. Hey, that's old news. The pharaohs had all of that. See, so really they copying from the ancient world. See, if you just took black history from America, you don't have much but a history of people that's being mistreated and abused and their talents not being used. You know, they had a saying, and you know, they brought some brilliant people here. They brought people here with royal bloodline. They brought people here, and after they done flipped the script and then turned them into peasants and then killed off the leaders, they had a saying, we don't want your mind, we want your back. But it's been a brains drain here all the time, because some of our best students all went all the way to the White House. Some kids, some guy was in the second and third grade, went all the way up to high school, came from around the lake, one of them plantations I was telling you about. He served as a security at the White House. See, and we've got some of the best teachers and doctors, and the University of Arkansas, they put that there because so that they collect the knowledge that these people had about farming. See, it started off as branch normal. They were just straight concerned about farming. And then they thought that these brothers needed a more liberal arts education. Then they became AM&M, agriculture, mechanical, you know. And then after that it became, now it's always after we get it rolling, here come the folks to take it over. Now here come the university system. It's UAPB now. It's part of the university system. And a lot of tradition is going, but so is everything else. Y'all better help me get back on track. Somebody got a question?
I love this. I said I love this. Keep talking.
Keep on going?
Yeah.
Oh, I got some more of that. Okay. I tell you, round one, after the Reconstruction era, the carpetbaggers and the scallywags came up with the idea to murder all of the people that had the land grants. Now, you go back and check the archives, find out how many land grants was issued, and then see how many of them changed hands. You see? It's right there in the archive. And see, the reason that I can find so much is because our land grant, before the Civil War, they had this eminent domain thing going, because they had to take some land to put the railroad in, and they had to take land to put the post office in. So right there in this little place called Oneida, right down from the graveyard where my grandfather, my father, and great-grandfathers all buried, and I don't know, they buried slaves out there and everything, but it just looks like just a bunch of weeds. It should be on the National Historic Record, and it should be tended to by the federal government. But they'll plant beans in our father's chest. They'll come back over and diss over it and plant over it, because what the whole name of the game is, we don't want you to know that you ever meant anything. We don't want you to think that we want to erase, just like what they did in Germany. It ain't no room no more. We're doing it. You see what I'm saying? We're going to take everything you got, we're going to make you shut out and make you like it, or you die. So they came down through here and they killed I don't know how they gathered them up, did they see? But they murdered every one of those men. And I grew up with kids that they did what they call the hush mouth. They dared the widows like they did with Moses. They dared them to speak his name, to strike his name from the record, so we'll forget he ever existed. Mark his contributions out of the aisles of history. You see, that's what they were doing to my granddaddies, my great-great-granddaddy, the Ethiopian. And when I speak of the Ethiopian, now his son, his wife was a Choctaw Indian, and her name was Jane Chalata Charinda Hunley. They called her Miss Jane Hunley. All right. She had his children. Alonzo Davis was his youngest child. Alonzo was born during the Reconstruction era, and that's a funny thing. I'm his birthday present. Alonzo was born on March 24th, 1872, and mine March 24th, 1956. So, I got a memory of him. I had to check it with my brother because I remember sitting on his lap and him giving my brother a Kroger sack, telling him to go over to the apple orchard and bring some apples back. He cut the apple in half and took a spoon and scraped it and made applesauce for me right on the spot. And I didn't know. I asked my brother, and he said, "Yeah, that was Papa Lonnie." So two people don't share the same dream, man. So Papa Lonnie was real in me, you know, and I'm thankful. And he gave my father a horse. A horse when my father was a little boy, and my father was his pig. He gave my father this horse. It was one of those horses looked kind of grayish stuff, and as he grew older, he turns white looking. They called him Charlie. My father told my granddaddy that if anything ever happened to him, to give me the horse. And somehow my father died in a car wreck in 1960. But my granddaddy didn't tell me about the horse until 1969, right before he almost died. But Papa Lonnie, he was pretty smooth and he didn't know fuss. He wasn't much for education and wasn't much for white folks and all of that. But now when he came down to Tommy Davis, that's my granddaddy, I remember him. And he wasn't nothing to play with. He's a big black man, looked like a bear. And he had a real jolly up voice, but for some reason I talked too much for him. Anybody talk that much got to be lying. And he marked me. I am a very honest man. He marked me. I hate a liar worse than God hates sin. A liar and a fly. Oh boy, Granddaddy can go on and on about a liar. You ought to be a lawyer. And when the boys, when Johnny White and all these guys that was around here at the mental health center after I got at the Army, found out I had a brain, that's the first thing they did, to be a lawyer. I said, man, I want to work on the problem. I don't want to live off it. You know, it never was a thing about money with me because as we down here, now let's don't get shy because we use this nigger word around here too. See, I grew up what they call nigger rich and didn't know it. I really didn't know it because when I got big enough to go chasing after the girls, my mama bought me a car. Cause my daddy didn't want me. He caught me with a girl in his car, and he said, "Oh, he wouldn't have told my mama." And they wouldn't bought me a car of my own. You ain't got to be sneaking around in your daddy's car. See, we had motorcycles, we had horses, we had all kinds of stuff, but we worked. It didn't just fall in our lap. We were born with some stuff, but we had to work to maintain and keep it. And that ain't no bad deal. But all the children deserve that break. Because while I was working, my friend Charlie Grill, my cousins would come down for the 4th of July and to come to see us. We was talking about that on the phone last night, me and my cousin Ron. He's in Michigan. And Charlie Grill and them, they be out there chasing cows and stuff. On the levee back there, chasing cows. The man seen everybody else having a picnic. He wouldn't let those folks on that plantation enjoy their family coming because, see, what they were doing, they were trying to keep us isolated from the outside world. See, this is one of the best kept secrets in the world. Guys that came down here and walked off with some of the beautifulest wives and some of the most talented workers, and then they come down here and find out about the cuisine. Hey, we got dishes down here you never heard of. We make all kind of stuff. See, we're very cultured people. But then you want to say we don't count. You want to just sweep us under the... And notice, all of our schools that were black, they had a black school, Elaine, right there as you come. Junkyard, Oneida School. The only reason Lakeview ain't no junkyard is because there's too many of us concentrated right there, and them folks still got a little fight left in them. You see? Because they don't want these children to know. They don't want my grandchild to know the life I had. Because, boy, it was like the wonder years growing up about it when I was growing up. Me and my friend be walking along. Next thing you know, we just go jump in a creek somewhere. And if you ain't careful, little girl sneak up her hand and steal your drawers and stuff, and now you got to get out naked, skin a dipping. And we did it all. We fought around here, we beat up on each other. But then when we left here, we leave here and go somewhere and work on jobs. See, they still do it. Right now, my brother's one of the best concrete finishers in the world. My dad was a #1 bulldozer driver. We built this place, and I ain't talking about all rock and roll. Hell, we built it with this, you know, and with this, and mostly with this. A lot of the things that people get in credit for were things that we did, you know, a lot of them. And see, that's the main reason that I want, when I gave the Mosaic Temple my Bible, and they put it on display, and they don't show my granddaddy's face, that was his Bible. Why don't you show that man's face next to that Bible? I got his face now there somewhere. Can I get my daughter? Come on, help me find it. I want you to see his face, because he was real. Get that picture of granddaddy and grandmama out of there, and Jane Hunley. This is my daughter, Amanda, and that's the reason why right there. See, it's a bunch of them. I don't listen. I can't count how many grandchildren. And listen, I'm a great man now. I'm getting great grandchildren. I got some great grandchildren. Ain't that something? I was 65 and I got great grandchildren. We moving right along. But anyway, The reason that I want them to, they didn't show in his picture because they don't want us to associate ourselves with the glorious past of this place. See, they don't want I got a grandson that was born in the projects, and ain't that something? A hell of a trip from the pyramids to the projects. That's a hell of a trip there. I got a grandson that was born in the project, living in the project, born on the 4th of July. You know what I call him? Taint. I call him Taint. I said, boy, you ain't no American, you're an American. Because your zip code's gonna get you. Then, you know, like I say, I got hoes in different area codes. Hey, some of them area codes, they ain't even coming through. Not looking for nothing that's gonna be a blessing to somebody. Like the Chicago. Who you think going to Chicago through them ghettos looking for what? But they're there. Some beautiful, brilliant minds are there. Being stifled. This. You see your work? Young people, you see your work? You got to turn this world around. You know? And did you find the picture? Now, Mosaic Templar got a better picture of this one. This one here is a picture of this right here is my great-granddaddy with the hat on. Looked like he was the leader of something then, too, don't he? He got his little, of the main hat on.
Can we pass the picture around?
Sure, pass it on back. And where's the one, Amanda? Here you go, pass it on back. The little lady on the end is Jane Hunterly, and the one in the middle is Alonzo. That's her son. That's a baby boy. That's my great-great-grandfather. And my grandfather, his son, Tommy, is a young man standing behind him. But now, most of the people during this time, most of the people were not taking pictures in fancy clothes. You see what I'm saying? They were in the field. But see, they could come out of the field when they got ready. And my fathers grew up privileged. When I got big enough to go to town, the little girls I met, they mamas already knew my dad. Yeah, oh yeah, he looked like Tommy in age, yeah. Them boys already been through that. See, they was talking about granddaddy had a truck. And granddaddy didn't want to let them have the truck. Grandmama tell her, get on him about it. And give them the keys and they go to town and chase girls. Okay? But I'm going to show you something. My grandfather, show you about the prejudice that exists amongst black. See, they got a little few layers to this onion and peel too. You see, my granddaddy didn't want my father to marry my mother because she came off another plantation from Lee County. That's the next county over. But it was a whole different setup. My mother's people came from out of those island people. My mother's people came here with some people from the tobacco country. So my granddaddy said my mama was a gypsy. But she had gypsy blood. You know, like you leave Egypt, you're an Egyptian. You get to Ireland, Spain or somewhere, they mix bloods with you. The child is not an Egyptian, it's not an Irishman, it's a gypsy. You know, and they lower the class on us, you know. And my Aunt Gussie's, my mother's name is Gussie, and her father's sister's name is Gussie. Her father got killed somehow. There was a whole lot of killing back there, and my granddaddy knew about it, and he didn't want my mother and my father to get tied up. But to show you how far he could see, he couldn't see far enough. God can see better. His plans are the best. Because first of all, I wouldn't be here if that didn't happen. And then that would have been the end of the Davis line of his children. Because out of his 4 sons, only 2 of them had children. That's Uncle Walter and my dad. And Uncle Walter had a daughter and a son, and the son's gay. So I don't look for no new cousins out of him, you know, and I ain't mad at it. I mean, live your life. And I'm gonna tell you, I don't try to be smarter than God. And I don't have the answers. But I know this, love is the answer. That means I gotta love him too. You see what I'm saying? Now, I may not want him over here messing with my child. I may have a problem with that. But now, I got to love him too. I got to want the same thing for him that I want for myself. I want to eat. I want to see him eat too. Because I'm going to tell you something. When you stop people from eating, that's when you're finna have problems. See? You see how they play with the economy? And see how people all uptight, everybody? That's the way you do dogs when you get ready to take them hunting. You don't feed them. So they'll be sharp, they'll be hungry, they'll be looking for something, they'll be on the attack. And we're going through that right now. They playing games. We're in what we call the prelude to war. You know how the prelude to a song starts? You don't know whether it's going to be boogie night or disco dancing till the beat drop. When the beat drop, oh, that's what it is. See, all this unexplained stuff, all these crazy behaviors, how come they didn't do this about that? Or why? And then all of a sudden, boom, you see them moving all this stuff up and down the freeway. Well, hell, that's what they built the freeway for in the first place, so they could move stuff from one end of the country to the other in case of war. You know, the interstate system. You see them moving all these different tanks, and then when the colors change, that lets you know, hey, you're going to a different place. Because I remember when they used to be olive drab, you know, OD, a greenish color. Now they got a dusty looking sandy color. So the terrain changed on us. Somebody got a question?
I want to know, Anthony, if the land you once owned includes what Lakeview is now on.
I couldn't tell you the exact metes and bounds or the boundaries of the land that belonged to the Davis family, but I don't think Lakeview was a part of it because you pass by the Zacharys, and it's a few other family names that come into play as you come in this way. And see, I'll probably come in like, when did y'all pay attention when y'all was at Barton? Did y'all come through Barton? Which way did y'all come? Y'all came from Helena, but did you come down Highway 44? What? Did you come down, huh?
They said yes.
Okay, 44, okay. Well, so you can see, like, if you look this way, that would be the river over there, and coming down 44, it'll kind of bring you a little bit farther away from it, but you're not ever far away from it coming down 44. But the thing is, we need to go and look in the archives and find out who came, how much land they was given, and then you'll see some large lumps of land wait a minute. Mary Alice Bone, a friend of mine, grew up with us. We're really families tied up. Because when I was telling you about my great-grandfather, and I didn't know whether that was There was another man that moved in the house after he died. His name was Mr. Huffman. And Mr. Huffman had some grandsons, Raz and Freddie, and some granddaughters and stuff. And anyway, they lived in the house, and this young lady, Mary Alice Bones, she got involved in agriculture in Little Rock, and they got a picture printed in they got a couple of write-ups on her in the Arkansas Times or something, and showing her. But now, she sent me a documentary that she was a part of. At the last end of the documentary, she was talking about her grandfather would have been proud of her buying a John Deere tractor, and she got a tractor and all this stuff. But now, on this video, they showed the different eras of land acquisition as it came through, you see, in Arkansas. See, we had land when Arkansas was a territory. You see what I'm saying? And then when that Missouri Compromise thing comes down, Arkansas becomes a state. And then the state divides it up into counties. Okay? So, and I'll tell you something, they set the courthouse on fire to destroy the records. So, it don't shock me none when I see, I look at the nature of the beast. I'm smarter than to let the devil fool me like color has something to do with it. You got to look beyond the color and the nature of the beast. Now, I'm looking at people doing things, and why can't you show us in a more positive light? You see, when they went down to the Capitol and did all this stuff and wearing all these Viking clothes and stuff, they trying to back up in time. And they proud of the thing. And what that says to me is, you ain't ashamed that you killed my ancestors and covered it up. And you just want to keep it covered and keep me where I am. But you don't know doing this is bringing a curse upon the country. Because God is angry, but he ain't mad at me. He's mad about me. See, he's mad about the plans you got for my children's children. You legislating against them before they born? We don't have no answers coming from the White House, the Green House, the Blue House, or none of that. Ain't no answers coming there because they polluted. They done perverted the church house even. You got preachers lying harder than they was when they were lying in Elijah's days. Pimping preachers. Now I'm going to tell you something. I was teasing the boy on the radio because he always talking about the pulpit pimps and stuff, and I was laughing. Because I used to think I was pretty bad on the ladies growing up. I told him, I said, I think I missed my calling. I should have been a pimp. But I'm so glad that I didn't miss God's calling. I ended up preaching, you hear me? And let me tell you something. I preached from these cotton patch all the way to the Capitol building. I left, and not only that, I overcome being paranoid, schizophrenic, or whatever label they wanted to put on me. And re-educated myself and walked right out of this cotton patch. I preached hard enough to knock senators out the way. Bam, knock that senator down, knock that senator down. All right, here we go with the 31st National Black Caucus. My senator, he's sick. Anthony, go down there and entertain them folks for me. See? I'm up at the state capitol now. I'm in the big fancy hotel with the ducks walking around in the room. And these guys got some of the prettiest girls I ever saw in my life dressed up. And they smiling at me. What they look like I belong here. You know what I mean? Eddie Long sitting down there on the other end. He the main speaker. You know? And found out that I wasn't in no good company. Just cause they all politicians and this and that. They came here one night, and I got rude with them up in here, and I might have to go back and do a little backpedaling, cause it might have been one or two of them in there. There wasn't no coon. You see what I'm saying? Cause I told them about how I've coined a new phrase, you know, about neo-colonialism. We try neo-plantationism out. You see what I'm saying? So what happened here, neo-plantationism, they done got smart enough for to take over the elections and the buildings. We got, they done infiltrated here. And it's too strong for us to stay here, so we're gonna have to let them run it for us. So what Boss did was, he went to Cancun and put his favorite coon in his chair. And you know what the coon did? He made sure the boss got his regular revenue, but then he went over there and went to doing business with dope fiends and dope addicts so he could make some money. He opened the door and let the heroin pusher come in and the coke pusher come in. Cause he ignored him. You done made me a damn criminal. You see what I'm saying? Took my tags off my truck and they just then told me to wait on Jesus. Crazy police. He ain't here now. Show him. And he doing just like he did when he came to Jerusalem. He went and turned the money table straight over. He ripped through the economy and turned the pigeons and the doves loose. Don't you know some folk got up to something when Jesus came, when he rolled that money table over them coins, went to roll it everywhere? Don't you think some folk got up to something that wasn't supposed to be? And don't you think, man, you know when Jeremiah said that they were going to have men in cages like birds? They got to let some of these boys out of prison now. And ain't it a shame they done destroyed their lives over stuff like marijuana. And before you can get them out of prison, you done did a hostile takeover over the business. You got pharmacies set up. Have mercy.
I'm going to call it at this moment, because I think that's a good place to end. And call it the end of the interview here, but I'm going to suggest that what we do, the food is here. We want to eat it while it's fresh. You eat at the tables, and we bring Anthony in. I think maybe we can get a mic that goes further. So that as you're eating, if you have questions you want to ask him, specifically ask him questions. And I want you to go back to
I want you to feel free to set up another time because I want you to feel it. I want you to smell it. I want you to taste it. I want you to see it. I want to put your senses to work. And I got to ride you up and down these levees and let you smell like with these lakes and just flowers in the air. You don't know what it smells like when them honeysuckles bloom and all this and different things blooming. And, you know, I'm in paradise. Why would I go anywhere? I'm going to fight for mine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Give him a hand.
All right. Thank you.
And